Welcome back to the Trav's Test Podcast. We are your hosts, Kim and Aaron. We are healthcare travelers and the creators of Trav's Test. And welcome to It Is Back, people. Travel Tip Tuesday. New face, same concept.
No.
Here we go.
No, not same face, same name. Like, we're calling it now Obsessed with Travel Tuesday.
Oh, we are?
Yes, I told you that. And every Tuesday, we're going to be talking about something that's like travel specific and travel related, but it won't necessarily be about healthcare traveling. It's just travel in general.
Won't necessarily, no.
It won't be about travel healthcare. Maybe sometimes. Once in a while, we'll throw in a zinger, but mainly about like travel.
Okay, let's do it.
Welcome to Obsessed with Travel Tuesday.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
That is fun.
Yeah, way better than Travel Tip Tuesday. It's freaking lame, brah.
Well, let's do it.
All right.
Flight crew, please prepare for departure.
Okay, so a lot of thoughts have been going into this podcast, as you'll hear on Thursday, so definitely tune in. Just really kind of, Kim and I, going into 2025, really want to blow this podcast up in any way, shape, or form. We have a lot of new topics that we want to start talking about, and I think with just Travcess Adventures and Travcess in general, and just Kim and I being Travcessed, meaning obsessed with travel, we have been able to travel the world, and we kind of set our lives up to take contracts to allow that, to be able to take the time off to go and explore and find new places, because the power of travel is real, and it's something that Kim and I feel very passionately about, that it allows you to open up your mind, get out of your comfort zone, see new ways of life, realizing that we are all very similar in the world, and trying new foods, meeting new people, seeing different ways of life. It's just a very powerful experience, and we are completely obsessed with it.
And also too, just, we've now run, I think, 17 trips.
Or more.
And with, over 150 other travelers, like we've been doing this now for 2 years. And it's interesting because we love travel, and we love the destinations and all the cool things that we get to do in exploring the world. But what we've really taken away too from these trips is not just like, oh wow, like we went to Bali, and like, while Bali is amazing, it's the impact that these trips have in people's lives, the connections they make, the friendships they make, the way that they step out of their comfort zone. They're like, I'm never going to be the same. Like, it's not that I went to the waterfall. It's that I was terrified and I jumped off and my friends cheered me on, right? Like, there's just so many beautiful, impactful moments that are from travel, right? But that really can transform and change your life. And it's not the location, but it's just traveling in general. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we've always talked about. We always say the power of travel and how much it changed our life and all the cool things with it. And so we wanted to come back because, if you've been following the podcast for a while, we were doing Travel Tip Tuesday. And so with that segment, we wanted to just take healthcare traveler questions and answer them in 15 minutes or less. Like, that was the vibe, right? And while that was fun and whatnot, we really want to kind of redo it and focus more on travel in general. So not just healthcare travel topics, even though we are healthcare travelers and we love to help other travelers get started. And we have tons of resources for healthcare travelers. We wanted this to be more travel related in general.
Well, I guess I will say too, is like, that's one thing that we don't talk about a lot. And we have a lot of knowledge around, efficiencies in travel, different travel locations. And I've been noticing that in the contracts I go to, the conversations I have are how we navigate airports and how we navigate our flights and how we pick the destinations and how we plan our trips and why we plan our trips a certain way. And like, all those topics are very interesting for people and things that sometimes Kim and I take for granted. And I want to start talking about a lot of that stuff more on these Obsessed with Travel Tuesdays. Not only just like locations, because maybe you don't want to go on a group trip, but you want to take your sister or your husband or your wife or whatever on a trip, and you don't know where to start. Like, these can be those helpful tips that you listen to every Tuesday to walk away with something.
Yeah, and they're going to be shorter. So usually our episodes on Thursday are about an hour, give or take. And so these we want to keep shorter, so they're not going to be an hour. We're not going to be like in 15 minutes or less. Like, but the goal would be to like keep them a little bit shorter depending on the topic. And also, like, they will be more travel in general, but we'll weave in some healthcare travel stuff here and there as well. But yeah, I think Aaron's like, no. Yeah, like when we have something to share, when we have something to teach. Yeah, if there's a question that comes up that we're just like, oh my God, this is so great, and like we're gonna get on and talk about it. But I think just kind of switching gears is like, we are healthcare travelers, and that's a part of, you know, it's woven into every aspect in our life.
It's why we can do what we do.
Right. It's like, gosh, like it changed our entire life, and we love this lifestyle, and you know, we're always going to continue to like mentor new travelers, but we really want to open it up more and talk about just travel in general, our lives in general, like, you know, all of the things. So I think you'll see us start to move away from specifically speaking about healthcare traveling and open this conversation up a little bit more to travel and lifestyle in general.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
Love it.
So this week
might be a little longer.
Yeah, it was like the longest freaking introduction ever.
No, I mean, it was good. 7 minutes.
Was it? Oh, that's not too bad. Okay. So this week we wanted to focus on Bali. Our love, like people, we are obsessed with Bali. Like, we're about to go run our 5th trip to Bali.
I mean, it could be 6th, 7th, and 8th.
I mean,
the interest, it just
it's
keeps
just
pouring in.
That is the trip. Like, we have so many awesome trips, but that is the trip that everybody, like, we could just run Bali trips.
And that's what's funny, because the last time we were in Bali, our friend G'day, who is our on the ground, changes the game for this Bali trip. Without G'day,
it would be shit.
I mean, we would just, I don't know, it would just be one of those run-of-the-mill trips, right? But we have that, you know, what do you call it, hidden assassin in there that just like blows the trip out the water. And we're actually going to hang out with him and his family for a couple weeks in Bali before we run our New Zealand trip. So it's just a brother from another mother, another country. And he said to me when he was walking back, we were leaving Gilly T, and he goes, Aaron, do you think you and Kim would run 10 trips a year to Bali? And I'm like, bro, like, are you kidding me? Like, no, no way. But now I'm like, man, that's actually quite closer than I thought because of the amount of interest in this trip.
I know. I personally cannot run 10 trips to Bali. No. This will probably be one of the last trips that we personally run for. We'll see. Well, for a while.
I love it there.
I do too. It's honestly one of my favorite places in the world. And so I just got my hair done the other day, and it's funny because anytime, so people are like, oh, like, what do you do? And, you know, all those kinds of things. And the fact that, like, oh, we plan and host adventure trips for, like, healthcare workers. We go all over the world and, you know, like, do cool shit together. And it's always like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, what? Like, where are you going? Like, it always sparks a conversation. People are so interested in it. And I'm like, oh, we're going here, right? No one gives a fuck. And Bali, you're going to Bali? Oh my God, it's my dream trip. Like, everybody has a thing with Bali, which I guess, like, we did too. Like, the first time we went was 10 years ago, which we'll get into, but there's something about it, right? So that, like, draws people and attracts people and people want to go. And she was like, let me ask you. She's like, she got a client that went, you know, a little bit ago, whatever. And she's like, I hear that now it's like just a lot of like influencers and Like it's really crowded and it's just like become like really overrun. Like what are your thoughts on that? And so that's kind of the conversation we wanted to have today of like, this comes up a lot of like, you know, is Bali still worth it? Is it too crowded? Is it overrun? Like go somewhere else. Like it's lost. Like it's like specialness, blah, blah, blah. Like you hear that all the time and we get asked that a lot. And so we really wanted to share like our opinion as people who have been to Bali a million times at this point and kind of like our end who also the first time we went was almost 10 years ago. So our perspective on it and really like touch on it.
I can tell you this conversation, this topic really triggers something in me from an anger point of view because I
Why
feel
are you
like
grabbing your private? You're like so
that's how
mad.
angry
You're
I
like,
am. I have to pinch it to like control
He's,
myself.
like, ready to go.
Yeah, like I think it's clickbait for a lot of people, and it bugs me because I feel like it gives a false perception of there's so much gray area in there that nobody talks about. And I really want to use this podcast in particular to kind of clear a lot of that up.
Right.
And you know what? Share this out to all of those freaking influencers that are posting that Bali's overrun.
Yeah. And I think we have a lot of good perspective because, again, we're not someone who's been to Bali one time.
Right.
And we're like, this was Bali. No. I see people who have gone like literally once and they're like, they went here, here, here. And they're like, yeah, it's true. Bali's overrun. And I'm like, of course, because you only went to freaking Kuta. Like,
yeah.
So you're giving, and they're sharing that. And I'm like, and you don't even, like, you're putting that out there, but like you didn't even experience Bali. And that's like
somebody
part of the
else
problem.
feels my aggression.
We're really passionate about
Yeah.
Bali. Like, honestly, I almost feel like I have to like stick up for it. It's almost like my like sister. I'm
That's
like
getting bullied.
Yeah, like I'm like, I have to stick up for her because she needs a voice, you know, like don't talk shit about my girl if you don't even know her. You don't even know her like that. You met her once and you form an opinion and you're like, get out of here.
I'm
like,
sorry that your idiotic views are the ones that like shape where you have a platform to write something.
So let's take it back. So we went to Bali for the very first time in 2016.
Yeah.
Right? Or 2017, January 2017.
Yeah.
Okay.
1/11/17.
Yeah.
We were filming from the airport in Jacksonville.
Okay, so that's 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
8 years.
Okay, 8 years. God, you're so fast at math. I'm like counting on my fingers. And so 8 years ago, and we had that draw. Like, and also we followed other YouTubers that were like going to Bali. And
Living there.
Yeah, we're like, this place looks so cool, whatever. Oh, and that's the other thing I want to address. People are like, Bali, so cheap, right? We're going to talk about that too. Okay. Because that was another thing that drew us there. Because at the time we first went to Bali, we're like, we're going to live here. It's like so cheap. We can like get by on like $1 a day, you know? So has Bali changed?
Yes.
From 8 years ago, 100%.
1,000,000%.
Yeah, to where it is now. Like, you have seen it change so much. So, let's start here. In southern Bali, okay, Bali's a huge island. Okay. When people think of Bali, they typically are referring to the southern part of Bali. It's close to the airport. That is where a majority of the people go, because to go mid and like northern Bali it's long, right? It's long. You got to drive through
Roads
the
are crazy.
mountains. Yeah, like most people do not venture out there. So they think of, and a lot of Australians and stuff vacation in Bali because it's so close. And so it's like the Caribbean, right? For them, like for us, like the Bahamas.
For Floridians.
Yeah. So it's like their kind of like spring break place. So they're all in southern Bali. So southern Bali, say like Kuta, Seminyak, Canggu. Okay, those places.
Uluwatu, possibly.
Yeah, Uluwatu is like more of like a surfer town and it's a little smaller. It's not as like crazy.
No.
And those places are incredibly crowded and busy. Those places are tons of influencers, tons of digital nomads, because a lot of people move to Bali that work from their computer, that live there. They run online businesses, and it's definitely a lot cheaper to live in Bali than, say, like New York City or like the United
Australia,
States.
United States. Yeah.
And so Southern Bali is kind of set up for this like digital nomad community, influencers, so many like Instagrammable cafes, good restaurants, chefs coming in. Like it really feels like you can tell you're in another country, right? Because it's like chaos on the streets and scooters and like crazy sidewalks. Like, incense, like, you're in another country, but it feels very much like you could be walking down the streets in like a cute town in California with like restaurants and cafes and shops, right?
Yeah. And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like, you got to understand too, like, what is it that you're looking for, right? Because I think, Bali is overrun. It is no longer the place you go to for solitude, although you can find that. But because of the fact that all of these people have come in, it has also brought really cool chefs, really cool restaurants. And for instance, my computer broke in Bali. I hopped on my scooter, I went down the street to a Mac store, and I bought a new Apple computer. Like, I don't know what it is you're looking for, but like, we know how to get away from all of that. And it's also a lot of like bars, party, and restaurants, beach clubs, and that's what people relate Bali to. So it depends on what you're looking for, because of the fact that now it is considered a place that a lot of people travel to. Other people outside of Bali, more or less Indonesia area, have moved into Bali, and a lot of the riffraff and stuff like that can come from targeting travelers in those bar areas.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. So Southern Bali is a lot of like they're known for like beach clubs, beaches, parties and stuff. So that being said, that's one small part of Bali. Now, granted, when we first fly into Bali, I love going to Canggu. Like, Canggu is, you got the beaches, right? It's a big surfing beach, like beautiful.
Seminyak.
Yeah. And great cafes to walk to. Like, I love, because it's like, you're not just eating, at a overrun, which is like their local kind of food shop. It's like, you can go have a delicious meal. Good food, like go and have cocktails at a beautiful rooftop overlooking the ocean, watching the sunset. Like, you get like the luxuries of that. There's beautiful spas. Like, you go to a cafe and it's very like, there's flowers everywhere and like cool pictures, like to take Instagram pictures, right? Like, it's built for that community. I also like really like that.
I do too.
It's very crowded. The streets are filled with scooters and it's chaos, and it's just like, you're in Asia. Like, all Asian countries have the like crazy streets, right? With like all the people, no rhyme or reason, the
organized
traffic.
chaos.
Yeah. And so like, I love that. Like, we're going to Bali in March, and we're like, okay, where do you want to go first? And I'm like, I want to go to Canggu because we have our go-to hotel there. And I'm excited to like walk to some of our favorite restaurants and eat really good food. And it's just like, it's a really cool vibe. Now, granted, I wouldn't want to just stay there, because if you just stay there, then yes, you are going to walk away from Bali and be like, yeah, it's cool. But like, yeah, it was just like a bunch of cafes and restaurants and like
a bunch of
influencers.
Australians and influencers and parties.
Right.
Totally.
That would be your perception.
After 3 days, I'm ready to bounce out of Canggu. Like, I need to bounce.
That's such a small part of Bali.
I mean, the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. So, if you just go there, that will be your experience in Bali. And a lot of people just go there. Okay. Now, let's head up to Ubud. Okay. Now, Ubud is our favorite part of Bali. I love Canggu. I love Ubud. Now, what do you think? Because you gave
that's where I would want to leave the airport, go to Canggu for a day or two, and then escape to Ubud as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Because I also feel like Ubud downtown, that's more of the yogis, the spiritual, like, cultural hub, right? So there's a lot of, like, temples, and they're literally don't care how many, like, people are on the road. If they have a temple ceremony, they're walking down the middle of the road with the entire temple congregation, playing their drums, doing their music, doing their ceremonies, and, like, life stops, right? But Ubud is the cultural hub, but it's also the spiritual hub, the yogis, and also the good food. Like, really, really good restaurants are popping up around that area. And Hanneman Street and, like, all those areas are super crazy. Like, we have to reroute our traffic and our patterns and leave an hour early because of the traffic around that area. But that is in the central hub of Ubud.
Right. And Ubud has also become very, very popular, right? So lots of cute cafes, lots of Instagrammable places, lots of great restaurants. So again, like, I love that because I love being able to walk to an amazing dinner, right? And that downtown area is busy, it is crowded, and there is a lot going on. Now, when we stayed in Ubud, so when we first went, but even years after, because we always go to Ubud and stay for a long period of time, you stay outside of the city, it's a completely different experience. You are staying, like, surrounded by rice terraces, small streets, no traffic.
Local community.
Local warungs you go eat at with the local people. It is a completely different experience. But then you're still a 10-minute scooter ride into downtown that you could go grab, like, a great meal, right? And so that area outside of Ubud, and that might change over time too, like, it could, you know, but that is, like, my favorite area and where we go when we take a Travsays trip. Now, we do stay right in the hub because we're with a group, right?
And we need walkable.
Yeah, we need people to be able to, like, walk to the cafe, walk to a restaurant. Like, we can't be in the middle of nowhere because we're not putting people on scooters, right? So we do have to sacrifice kind of the beauty of the outsideness of town for the convenience of the walkability, right?
Keep going.
Did you want to say anything else about Ubud? No. I was going to move on. Okay. Now, those Ubud and Southern Bali are the two, like, most popular tourists where people go when they come to Bali, right? What most people think of when they come to Bali. I think both are very crowded, but both are also really cool and have a lot of pros to it. Now, if you just go to those two places, then yes, you are going to say, like, it's so busy, it's this and that. That's where people get it wrong. So for us...
Well, can you get into Uluwatu real quick?
Go ahead. What do you want to say about
Uluwatu is another place that I think a lot of people take day trips to because the Uluwatu temple is the central hub of the Balinese Hindu culture. It's a really cool place to go. The monkeys are crazy. They steal your stuff. It's like a whole thing. It does feel very touristy. Buses are piling in. They do the kakak dance there. It's like a whole thing, right? So you have that, but you also have, like, the Rip Curl surfing event because the big waves come in there. And honestly, like, when Kim and I stayed there in a hotel, it didn't feel overly crowded. It was a lot of day trip people, so they all leave to get back to Canggu, Kuta, Seminyak, all those areas, where we would just stay in, like, you have the beaches to yourself and you're just walking around and, like, sunset, and it, like, feels isolated. The restaurants there are really good, and, like, you can always get in as long as you're not going to the typical beach club bars, right, that people go to, you know, for the party nights and things like that. So there is solitude within Uluwatu right now. It is blowing up a little bit more. Houses are being built there. Villas are being built there. I know Gade is actually a part of, like, he has some big connections where he's finding very famous people, cliffside residences that they can buy to live there now, that they vacation to. So, like, it is blowing up Uluwatu area.
Yeah. I will say too, Uluwatu, so this is interesting because people think Bali is an island, but you think, like, beautiful beaches. Like, I don't go to Bali for the beautiful beaches. Like, honestly, like, the beaches are not that beautiful. Like, they're just not.
Not compared to the Philippines.
No, or like Thailand or any, like, it's like, and honestly, unfortunately, especially in areas like Seminyak, there's a lot of trash.
They've cleaned that up.
There's still trash.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm just saying, like, it's not like the most beautiful beaches I've ever seen in my life. Uluwatu has incredibly beautiful beaches. The most beautiful beaches in the island of Bali, like that blue water, just cliffs, absolutely gorgeous. So what I said this to my hair girl when we were talking about Bali, I was like, it's, you know, there's a lot of beautiful islands all over the world that you can go to and get much prettier water and this and that. I don't go to Bali to go to the beach. What makes Bali so magical is the people and the culture. And if you miss that, then you miss Bali, right? Because that is what, like, learning about their traditions and the culture and just like the people in general, like, that is truly the heart
their way of life.
Bali.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's what makes it so special. And if, like, you do not get that when you go to Bali because you're just hanging at the beach clubs and like that, like, you've missed the point.
That's a
of
really
going
good
to
point.
Bali.
So Canadian, US, Australian's different because it's so easy for them to get to, right? I understand why they flood that place. Most of the businesses now have partial Australian owners. Like, they've come in there and just tore it up, right? The tattoo place that I go to, G'day owns part of it, but it's owned by an Australian famous tattoo artist, right? Like, that's his so it's like, it's everywhere, right? For us to fly that far, 24 hours in the air, to just go and party at a beach, there's way cooler places to do that.
Yeah, like,
so if you're going to Bali because you want a beach party getaway, I wouldn't do that.
no, don't waste your time.
No.
Like, you want to get into like the actual heart of Bali, right? And like, you know, I'll say too, Ubud has like, because you said it's like the spiritual center, like, there's, you know, a lot of like meditation and yoga and like mediums and like cool, like, we go to this place called Pyramids of Chi where it's like sound healings, but they also do like full moon event. Like, it's like a lot of like that, like, spiritual, like, kind of cool community is there. And a lot of people do go to Bali for that kind of stuff too. Ubud is like where that's at, and you can like feel that there. So again, for us, we make it a point where we experience those things, but then we get out of it all. So when you head north into the mountains, so like northern Bali, like the waterfalls, Lavina is north. This time that we're going, which we haven't gone before, we're going to go to the west side of Bali and go to the national park there. I haven't gone over the itinerary with you yet.
I'm like, what?
It's like amazing for like snorkeling and all this stuff. And it's just like, it's literally west of Lavina. Like, it's not, but that whole area is where you're not going to really find a lot of tourists. People do not go all the way up there because it's far. It's a 4-hour drive from Uluwatu up to Lavina. But that's where you're going to have the more local culture, a slower pace. You're going to be eating at the warungs. There's not like fancy restaurants. Like, the beaches aren't crowded. And it's going to be like the smaller villages and all that stuff where it's like, you're really like, you're in Bali, right?
There's a huge difference to where, even to the point of G'day. G'day's village is in the north. And so we get the chance to go to his village and actually walk around, and they are still touching our skin because they don't see white people up there. It's like the older generation. G'day wants more of groups to go in there, and he wants to, even if you came to Bali on your own and we got you in touch with G'day, he would want to take you to his village because even the kids feel that there's nothing for them to do because most people have left the north to come down to the south to get involved in tourism. And so there's not a lot of industry up there, to where even now the government is talking about putting an airport in the north so that way people can get to the north and experience that because of the snorkeling and the national parks and the waterfalls and the beauty that is up north, which Kim and I feel a little bit indifferent to because
it'll ruin it.
It'll ruin it, but it's also like that's our secret little hideaway that we get out of. And I will say that even when we are in that south area, when you've been there and you know the right people and the right connections, you can still feel like it's a hideaway within the craziness.
Right. And I think that's the other big takeaway too, is that it's a game changer when you have a local friend and connection. It really is, because if you just go there as like a tourist and you're kind of just going
searching
off,
the Googles.
Yeah, like you're going to have a completely different experience where, you know, G'day is our we've been able to do so many cool things because of him that we wouldn't know about, right? And like being able to take our group up into his village, which we got to do the last 2 trips we've run, and we're going to do it on this next trip. Again, we were the first ever group to go to his village ever. And like you are just learning so much about like their way of living, and like it's so interesting because it's so different than what we're used to, right? And it's so beautiful, and like the way that they think and their perception and their mindset is so beautiful and open and loving and pure, in their family life. It's like, wow, it's like that is the magic of Bali.
Yep, his whole family comes and cooks for us.
Yeah.
In his house, his whole family, his sisters, all of them.
Everybody, yeah.
Everybody. It's so cool, and we get to just be in his little compound and ask questions and walk through his house and ask like his family things and really have that Balinese experience with our group. And you do feel a part of something. It makes me feel emotional just like thinking about it, about just the openness. And they're just sitting there Indian style, like chatting with us, and like people are asking all these questions, and you get to really feel, and we get to just walk through like where little G'day was like running around, you know, and like seeing the kids there, and they're out playing soccer, and they're a woodwork village, right? So you get to see all of that, and like it's just really cool to be a part of something that not a lot of there's no tourists.
No, there's zero. We're the only ones.
Even when we drive through in our bus, everybody's like, what? And then they're hopping on their scooters to come ride and see like what are they doing here?
I know,
like,
you might as well be like, who's a famous person? I don't like Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Like on our tour bus, because that's like how we're treated, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what? Like, who are you guys?
They just want to say hi. And what was really cool was they don't have a lot of money in that village. And so because we were visiting, all the kids and them, they ran out and they got coconuts. And they could chop coconuts for us. So they had a gift for us when we arrived.
Yeah.
Which was like, and they were showing us their fruit that they went and picked, and like they wanted us to have it, and like just to say hi, right? And then the kids wanted to practice English, and like it was just it's just those experiences take away everything else, right? And if you never experience that, you've missed it.
100%. I also, the first time we went to Bali, we went to a waterfall like right outside Ubud, and it was like so crowded.
Yeah.
Remember, it was just like mud. Like we didn't even go in. We're like, ew, like let's go. And like a lot of people just go there because it's right there. It's right outside of Ubud. And so when we go up north, there's so many beautiful waterfalls, like insane. And like we'll get there and we'll have the place to ourselves.
Yes.
And it's because when we always say like the places that are harder to get to because they're physical and you have to hike or you have to walk or you have to drive or whatever it is, those are the hidden gems. Those are the best places because other people aren't willing to make the effort. So if you get to enjoy a beautiful waterfall in the jungle in Bali by yourself or with a couple other people, like that's insane. And that's all there. But people are just going to this like shitty ass waterfall outside of Ubud and saying like Bali's overrun. Like you're missing it.
If you're going there to do the waterfall in Ubud, the beach bars, the swings, the
swings.
Tangalonga lunga 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 ding dong rice terraces, like you're overrun with people because that's what they're doing. I will say just briefly, we should talk about Batur, because Batur, when Kim and I went, you get up early, and it's Mount Batur, and you're overlooking Mount Agun, which is a active volcano, and you hike up to the top of Batur, and you can smell the sulfur. You can see like the little like deposits from the volcano. And when Kim and I went in 2017, we hiked up, and there was maybe 30 people at the top, and it's difficult. It's a hard hike. You're waking up. I mean, our group is in the lobby of the hotel at 2 a.m. We pack little breakfast lunches and we go. And we're driving. It's like an hour away. And we hike up and we get there for sunrise. And it's a beautiful experience. Now, since we've gone back with our groups, that has exploded. And it is one of those things that's really hard to get to. It takes some effort. But people are willing to put in the effort. But now what they've done is outside companies have come in and they get off-road Jeeps, and they turned it into like
They
morning
made a path for it, yeah.
off-road Jeep, and they're revving their engines to make it fun and like going through the dirt and stuff like that. And it just has like ruined it in a way that like we still think it's somewhat special because we found an alternate route up to the top. And then after that, we get to hike through back down into a hot springs that not a lot of people are at. I mean, there's maybe 10 people at this hot springs.
Yeah.
Every time we go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it is. It's interesting to see how much that's changed. And I mean, for us, like, okay, we're people that feel like you should put in the effort in order to like. But then it's like hard because people who like can't walk or are handicapped or something like that. So obviously there's always like, you know, situations. But the fact that like something that was so beautiful, now it's like anybody can just jump in a Jeep and go. It completely ruined the experience. You know, I'm sorry. Like if you don't want to like hike, you know, then it's like, then you don't have the experience. Because it like you're trying to hike and have this beautiful moment and you hear the Jeeps revving and now there's like
all
thousands of people. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, you know, but like you said, we found a different route and then we were able to go up and there's still a lot of people, but then we found like a little nook where it was like our group and to watch the sunrise, and it definitely was still like a cool experience. And we even asked like the groups are like, because there's so many people, but like everyone agreed that it was still worth it because it is really pretty to watch the sun come up over Bali. And I also want to say three things. One, if you're traveling there solo, almost everybody speaks English in the touristy areas, maybe not in the north and stuff.
Even then.
Because they learn English in school too. B, like, it's a great place to solo travel because honestly, like the Balinese people are the kindest, like the most integral, honest, like because they live by like the karma system. So they believe like what they give out, they're going to get back in return. And so like they always are trying to do the right thing. Like they always say, like, if anything ever, like there's not a lot of crime in Bali, but like if there ever is, it's always from like a tourist. It's never from like a Balinese
tourist
person.
Or somebody from like other parts of Indonesia. Not from Bali.
Which is a tourist, yeah. So it's super safe. Like I feel so safe there. Like I would never be afraid to walk down the street by myself. I mean, again, like there are a lot of tourists there. So
you wouldn't walk down the street by yourself in Kuta.
I don't know. I probably would, but at night, yeah. I mean, I probably would. But anyways, and then also, so those two things. But then Nusa Penida is an island off of Bali, which again, very touristy, because what people do is they just take a day trip and they go bam, 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 bam. They go to all the places. So, and then they take the boat back. So you have like thousands of people going to all the places. But it's honestly one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. Like it is
beaches,
beautiful beaches, like white sandy beaches, the bluest water. Like it is beautiful. But again, if you just went and you just did the day tour and left, you'd be like, yeah, it's beautiful, but like there's so many people, it ruins
fighting
it.
for pictures,
right?
Horrifying.
So you would have a totally different experience. Where the hack, what we did is we stayed for multiple days. And so you get up and you go and enjoy these beautiful places before the ferry arrives with all the people from Bali. And that was a game changer. It is honestly one of the most beautiful places.
Yeah, we were by ourselves
everywhere.
in like 3 locations, literally enjoying white sandy beaches to ourselves.
Yeah.
And like swimming holes and different, like sitting on the swings and like over the, it was unbelievable, but there's not a lot of infrastructure in Nusa Penida. So as more tourists start coming in, they have to start supplying, the roads are crazy there.
The worst.
It's horrifying. Like the infrastructure is not built for tourism, which is great, right? Because not a lot of people go. So Kim and I found a beautiful treehouse that we stayed in, and it was literally, we were the only people there, and our host had its own war rung, and she cooked for us, and they brought us fruit platters, and in the morning, it was an oasis.
One of the best experiences
one of the
ever
best,
had.
minus the wind, but yeah.
Well, mine is being absolutely terrified that we were going to blow away.
Yeah.
And we were literally on the side of a cliff.
We have a YouTube video.
Yeah, we do. That's a great video. But we were on the side of a cliff and it was so windy and Aaron was like passed out sleeping. And I literally just laid there because like I kept thinking it was going to like lift off and blow away. I even texted our host like, hey, is this like okay? He's like, yeah, we're so used to the wind, like all is well. But I was like, this is going to go right over the cliff. It didn't. But yeah, that's like a beautiful spot, but you have to experience it the right way. And I think that's kind of the theme here is that anywhere you go, there's tourists everywhere now. We're tourists, like we're people, like, but if you can learn how to get away from the crowds, get off the beaten path, go at different times, you can have a completely different experience, right? Like even in Nusa Penida, one of the big attractions is King Beach, and it's like absolutely beautiful. And people just go to get a picture. And
of the T-Rex.
Yeah, it's a piece of land that goes out into the water, but it looks like a T-Rex, like the shape of it. People go get their picture, and there's hundreds of people. It's so crowded. People are like climbing up in trees, like it's insanity. And we went and we were like, oh my God, like this.
Get me out of here.
This is miserable. But then we went back and we hiked down. So there's a hike that, again, most people don't do because most people don't want to make the effort. It is hard and it's scary AF, by the way. But if I can do it, anyone can do it because I'm scared of heights. But we hiked down and it was just us and a handful of other people on the beach. And it was a completely different experience. We were like, this is paradise. Like, this is insane. Why aren't more people down here? But because it takes too much effort that people don't do it. And like, that was a game changer. If we would have just went to King, we would have been like, this place is horrible. Don't go.
But I mean, it's like the view, I guess, like, I don't understand the depths of like what people are looking for. So yes, places are popular. They are. The reason that your hairdresser freaked out about a dream to go to Bali is because of all the influencers that have posted about how gorgeous it is and their experiences. And once you post things on the internet, it catches a trend. It is still relatively cheaper than most places you go. Your money goes a long way. Like Kim and I had our own villa with our own pool, and they rigged it with high-speed internet and were like delivering water to us. And it was like $600 a month.
Can I talk about this for a second?
Yeah.
Because I think this is another thing that people are like, Bali's so cheap. Bali's so cheap. And like, honestly, Bali is still cheaper compared to the US, okay? But
in most places,
Bali has gotten way more expensive. So like that villa you talked about was out in the middle of the rice terraces outside of town. Getting something like that in town is much more expensive, right? So like, you can, if you're a backpacker and you just want to rough it, you can do Bali cheap. But it is not as cheap as people think, where like hotels, especially in good locations, they are not cheap. So I want to get that out of people's heads because there is a misconception, especially like from where you and I were 8 years ago to where Bali is now. So like, there's still cheap aspects to it. Like you can get a massage for $30, right?
2-hour massage.
Which God bless it. That is like my favorite. You could go to the spa every day, right? And like get great massages, all the things super cheap.
And the Balinese massage is its own thing.
Yeah. And amazing. But hotels, restaurants, like it's still, yes, it's not cheap. So especially if you're going to now, when we go to a warung, which is a local place, you can get a plate of like nasi goreng for a couple bucks, right? Like,
well, our group of 15 eats for like $70.
So at a warung, right?
Yeah.
So like you can get by like if you only ate there, like it would be super cheap, right? Or you only stayed at like homestays and like hostels, you can still do it very cheap. But in general, if you're going to a nice restaurant, if you're going to a cocktail bar, if you're staying in a nice hotel that is in a good location, it is not that cheap. So like, I think just kind of getting that out of your head, if you don't plan to be a super, super budget traveler, which we are not budget travelers anymore. We used to be ish. We tried to be, but like never were successful at it. But, and like with our group trips, they're definitely not budget trips. It's definitely like you can do Bali cheap, but it depends on what you're going for. So I think it's just something to think about, because it is a misconception that yes, it's cheaper, but like when you and I go to like Hippie Fish and get cocktails, the cocktails are still like $10 a piece.
13.
Yeah, it's like, which is the same as the US. It's like not that different.
13 US dollars.
We'll go to dinner and we'll still spend the same amount, maybe less than we would at home, but like not that much different. So like,
No,
No,
you're right.
It's just something to think about.
It is. And I think just wrapping up too, like a big part of Bali is the Gili Islands. That's another thing. So yes, that is a party island. Gili T in particular. Gili Air is known. What do they say?
Like,
Gili Air is where you take your wife. Gili Mino is
alone. Like
where you go something, and then Gili T is where you take your mistress or something like that. It's like, I don't know.
I've never heard that, but it's like Gili T is the party island. Gili Air is the couples island. Gili Mino is very isolated. Like it's very quiet.
Yeah. And so we go to Gili T just because we have a big group. And there's a lot of things for people to do, and you can also get to the other islands. But like, that was not very crowded when we first got there, and now it's gotten a little bit more. But it still does not feel overrun. And I don't know if that's because we get a private catamaran and we go out on the island and we get away from people, and then we also negotiate with our people that we're like, do not follow the tourist track. Like, we're renting this catamaran, please take us away. Like, we end up in a cove where there's nobody near us, and we're jumping off the boat.
Yeah.
And we have our music playing, and we're just surrounded by beauty and mountains and the best sunset in the world. And it's unbelievable. And so like the sea turtles are everywhere. We're not fighting other tourists to see the sea turtles or trying to get our picture. Whereas like the underwater statues, like sometimes we'll stop in there, but it's like we go later in the afternoon to where like all the groups are gone.
There's still a lot of people there, so sometimes, which that's like the one place that I'm like, God, there's, but yeah, compared to what it could be. Yeah, even like our hotel, because we stay on Gili T. I personally, my favorite island is Gili Air. Like I love Gili Air, but Gili T is good for a group because there's like more to do. And even the hotel we stay at there, like we have a private beach that's like for our hotel, and like there's not a lot of people there, right? Like it's still, that
might have changed because since we've been there, in February was our last time, they've brought Yogi Samantha, who's like amazing musician and very well followed. Now plays on Saturday nights at our hotel.
Yeah, that's true. And honestly, like, so and again, it's all about the knowledge and the location and kind of knowing an area. So like when you first come onto the island on Gili T, and this is what we did when the first time we went to Gili T, we stayed right by the port. So that is way busier, way more people. Beaches are crowded, not as pretty because it's like the port's there and all this shit,
the
right?
bars.
Right.
Loud.
So, but we stay a mile from there on the northwest facing. So like we're still facing, well, we're facing the sunset. So it's like the most beautiful side of the island, but it's a mile from all of that. So very close to jump on your bike and get down there and go to the beach bars and do all the things. But it's quiet enough where it's like, you're in your own little paradise. And to me, that is a game changer. If we just stayed down by the port, we would be like, cool, right? But where we are, it's beautiful, right? So it's like, it's all these little things that I think make a big difference in the experience you have, right?
100%. And I guess how do you wrap this up of like, is Bali, because I feel like we've ping-ponged
I know. I think that Bali has 100% gotten a lot busier. You cannot deny that. It's getting crazier and crazier, and honestly this island is going to be ruined, and it's actually very sad to witness, because like farmers are selling off their rice terraces because they can make more money by having like a villa on there, or like a property where people want to put a restaurant. And so it's sad to kind of see what's happening to this island. So I'm also like, get there soon, because in 10 years, I can't even imagine.
If they put that airport in the north,
it's going to freaking ruin it.
because they're already building the roads to get there. So that's the first step. So it is coming.
So it's like, get there while you can, because it's never going to be the same. But I still think that it's 100% worth it, because there's nowhere else in the world like it. And when we say that, I mean it. Like, yes, there's islands, like we said, that are beautiful, but it's not about a beautiful island. It's so much more than that. So much. Bali just has everything. And the people are truly what make it so special. But I would say it's still 100% worth going. But if you're gonna go, put in the time. Either come on a Travis trip, because we got you. Like, if you want to experience Bali, like, trust me, you want to experience it with us, because we've got this down.
I will literally put it out there. Nobody experiences Bali like we do.
No, 100%. That being said, even if you don't want to come on like a group trip, it's still worth going, but put in the time and the planning to get off the beaten path, and to really be able to absorb and take in what Bali has to offer, away from the crowds and away from all the craziness.
Well, reach out and we can put you in contact with G'day, because G'day is not only our friend, our brother, and just family. He also runs a business, and he is big on showing people his island, and he has drivers, and multiple drivers that can set up customary day tours for you that allows you to get away from the beaten path. And honestly, we've done so many Travis trips, you could even follow along the lines of like, where do they go when they go to the north?
Right.
And G'day knows.
Yeah.
And he can take you to all those places.
100%.
You can stay in Lavina and go to the waterfalls, and like, oh my God, even like our Warung after the waterfall, how she is so local that she knows you and I, and she's built the coffee.
That's going to be open next time we go.
Yep. And she literally, Kim and I, this family owns this Warung, and they always want to take pictures with Kim and I in our group. And they serve one plate at a time, and
we're there for so long.
We're there for so long, and everybody's so hungry. But the food is absolutely phenomenal. She always makes me a local Balinese dish that I can have, because Kim and I are basically Balinese, so our stomachs can handle it. Where nobody else is allowed to try it because we don't want them sick. And then she takes Kim and I on a tour of her coffee shop that she's building. Like, we get to go up and see like the construction and her plans, and it's those local connections that you just leave. Again, it's not about the beautiful waterfalls. Yes, they're there, but like, it's the people that that's the reason why I cannot relinquish this trip just yet, because I love every local person that we have involved in these Travis trips.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, walking into Komanika, the hotel, and the reception we get, and like how amazing they are. I mean, it's just
we have like the most beautiful family.
Rizal.
Yeah, I mean, we have incredible people there, and honestly, I'm excited because we've been to Bali so many times, and we're going back in March, and we're going to go experience a couple new things in Bali, which I'm really excited about. That can potentially be added to, well, actually wouldn't probably be the Bali itinerary, but planning a whole Indonesia trip, because we've been to Bali a million times, but we've never been anywhere else in Indonesia, which I'm really excited about, because we want to plan like a Indonesia adventure. So it's kind of like a Bali 2.0. Like we'll always have our signature Bali trip, but then for people who've like been to Bali, but like want to go experience more of Indonesia, that's focused more on like hiking and diving and snorkeling and volcanoes and, you know, just like more off the beaten path. We get to go and like experience that for the first time. And plan a really, really fucking cool trip. So I'm so excited for that. Like we get to do something new that potentially will become a really cool Travsays trip. So, and less crowded, less overrun because, which again, probably won't stay that way for long, but if we can get there before it becomes even more popular, I'm really excited about that.
Totally.
So,
all right.
I think, yeah, like.
This has been an hour.
Of course it has. Yeah, if you have any questions about Bali, always feel free to reach out to us. Like Bali, we're like specialists in Bali and it's our heart and our soul and we love it. And we always want to encourage people to travel there, but in a responsible way and also in a way that they can really enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And so always reach out to us. You can DM us at Kim and Aaron G. Yeah.
Again, if you're in this community, you listen to this podcast and you're going to go to Bali and you don't reach out, then I'm sorry for you.
God willing.
Yeah, God willing.
Right, I don't know. Godspeed.
Yeah. You're going to be right there in those blogs being like, Bali sucks.
No, I know.
And then I'm going to have to come after you.
And come on a Bali Travsays trip.
Let's go.
This year is sold out, but we will be doing a 2026 trip. And so you can go to our website, imtravsays.com. You can check that out, get on the email list to get notified. And again, if you've made it this long in the episode, thank you for listening. And we're going to continue to do these Tuesday travel talks. And if you have anywhere specific or something you have a question about, travel in general, not healthcare travel, but just in general, DM us, ask us questions. Like, we want this to be really fun and travel based and inspiring and also like practical things to take away too. And also leave us a review. Like again, this year, 2025 we really want to grow this podcast. And by you leaving a review is like tipping us basically. And we really appreciate it. And we love your feedback. And we're excited for the next chapter of the podcast.
Let's go, baby.
So, and tune in for Thursday because Thursday is going to have a lot of good shit too. So,
yeah.
All right.
All right.
Go to Bali
Let's
with
go.
us.
With us.